What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are taking a look at Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak's newest single from their latest album called Skate. And I've actually listened to this song now quite a few times. We're going to do a deep analysis on the song and try to dissect what really makes it so good and so catchy. And I have to say right from the onset that I do enjoy this song even more than Leave the Door Open. If I'm just kind of comparing the songs side by side and really listening to the vibe and the overall impression I personally get as a musician, I just love the musicality and the passion behind this song especially. It's just so good. It's just a vibe. It feels so good, you know? So what we'll do is we'll listen to the song through once, and then we'll kind of go through and dissect the elements that really make it work. So without further ado, let's have a listen to Skate. Awesome. Okay. So first impressions, right? I don't know about you, but just I'm going to keep saying the word vibe, but the overall groove and the feeling of the chords and the way the production is overall, it just gives you this kind of nostalgic vibe to it, which is really cool. Let's dive into the actual theoretical analysis first, and then we'll kind of dive into the instrumentation and kind of the production aspects behind it. But I've kind of dissected the chords here, and the first things first that you notice, if you just take a look at these different chord progressions, you'll see that every single one of these chords is a seventh chord to some degree. And that's really important if you're trying to go for this kind of like R&B, pop-y, hip-hop type of vibe, soulful type of thing, is you're going to have these seventh chords all over the place. There's no exceptions in this song. Like every single chord is a seventh chord, right? So basically it's either a major or a minor chord, and you add the seventh on top of it, and that will create the minor seventh or major seventh or dominant seventh quality that will basically give the song its color, right? So if we just take a look at the intro, let's kind of go bit by bit here. So the drums kind of come in first. And then you'll notice that it starts on an A minor 7, kind of this nice, go to a C13, which is really nice. So A7, A minor 7, going to C13. And C13 is basically the C7, but with a 13 is basically the A on the top. So right there, that's the kind of the sound you get. And you could think of it as maybe like a D minor chord on top of a C7 or something. But if you want to think of it more of like a dominant seventh, then it's basically like a C13. So let's continue on here. So A minor to D7, back to G minor. A minor to D7, and then it changes. Now I love that. I love the fact, I just love this chord progression. G minor to A minor 7 to D7, right? So overall, this song to me is an F major or D minor. I think it's an F major, but you'll notice there's actually no explicit like F major chord in this song throughout, which is really cool. Very, very interesting. They actually don't really use a tonic here. And they hint at the fact that it's an F major because you have so many C dominant sevens, C7s, right? C13, C9, whatever. That's all a C dominant 7. So we're hinted that it's in F major because so many sections end in this C dominant chord, right? So C13 here at the end of the bridge, C11 at the end of the pre-chorus, right? So you get a lot of these hints here. And then sometimes this, we get these secondary dominants that show up, and this D7 in this case leads back to the G minor 7 really, really nicely. So you get this slightly non-diatonic chord, which adds that extra color on top of the fact that we already have so many seventh chords. It just makes it all the better. And then here at the very end, you get a D11, which is basically a D7 again, but you get the G on the top as well. So if I play that here, you'll see we have the 9th, which is the G on top of the D chord, okay? So very, very interesting. And then in the pre-chorus, I love this ascending motion. So it basically goes, descending motion first. It goes B flat major 7, down to A minor 7, down to G minor 7. So it's going down by step, right? It's basically 4, 3, 2. These are the diatonic chords in F major. Then it goes back up. So very, very cool. It's just like a V shape, right? Then it goes down again. And then here, we get this really nice, we got this E flat 9 to A flat major 7. So for a second, we're visiting A flat major, which is like the chromatic median, the minor third above F. And then after that, we go back to G minor 7, A minor 7, and then here at the very end, we get this C11. So that is the, you could also think of it as a B flat over C. So let's hear the verse one more time and see how that kind of fits together.
In a room full of dimes, you would be $100.
A minor to D7, back to G minor, A minor, D7, back again, last time, D11, descending, and it's going to go back up, right? And the second half of the pre-chorus is going to kind of match this. So it starts off the same, then we get this in-between progression, and then instead of B flat, it goes to C, then chorus. So notice here how basically the chorus progression is very, very similar to the verse progression, hence why I kind of color-coded them in the same color, purple. But they've actually added in an intermediary chord here between the G minor and the A minor 7, and it's a C7. So basically, this is a 2 to 5 in F major, and you would expect it to go to 1, but you're kind of just going to the A minor 7, so that's the 3 going to the 5 of the 2. Going back to the 2, right? So yeah, instead of just G minor 7, A minor 7, and then D7, which sounds like this, we're going, right? So it's basically 2 5 2 5, and then that repeats a couple times. So second time, 7. Oh, okay, never mind, we're here. And this is the same as the end of the verse, which is very cool. Now it goes back to the intro. And then the verse again. So then the verse and the second pre-chorus and chorus are all the same. Taking a look at the bridge here, you'll notice that right away that goes to E flat to A flat major 7. So E flat 7 or E flat 13 going to A flat major 7. So this tells us that we're now in the key of A flat. So now we change tones completely, going to A flat. Nice transition chords there. So 2 5, 5 1 in G flat, going to C13, which hints that we're going back to F major there. So that kind of works out like this. So E flat 13, right, going to A flat major 7, and then it goes. Now B2 is basically just the B major chord, but added with the C sharp in the middle there. So basically it's E flat to A flat, and then B flat minor up chromatically to B, and then we go to D flat 13, which is actually this B flat on the top there, going to G flat major 7, right? So now we have a 5 to 1 in G flat, right? So now after that, we go directly up a tritone to C13. Okay, so it's very, very interesting colors, right? So first we go to, we're in the key of A flat for these two chords, which is again that minor third above the F. Then we go down a whole step to G flat major, which is only a minor second, a half step up from F. And then it jumps up a tritone to lead us back into the original key of F major, which is really cool. And after the bridge, now we have the intro chord progression one more time. Repeat one more time. Notice the vocal stacks coming in, right? More interest. And then finally, back to the chorus. But the really interesting thing here are two things, two main takeaways I can really pull out from this arrangement so far, or the chord progression, is that number one, they are all seventh chords, to say the least. They are all built on a dominant seventh chord or a seventh chord to some degree. So either it's a major seventh, minor seventh, or dominant seventh, right? Notice how the dominant sevenths are all kind of extended chords. So there's always like an 11 or 13 or a 9 or something, right? So it just adds more interest to the overall chord. Secondly, there is no mention of the tonic chord at all in this song. So even though it's an F major, because we have all those B flats in there and the chords are diatonic to the key of F, we never get the explicit F major. So this is really, really interesting, right? You don't actually need the tonic chord there to tell you what key it is, but it also keeps the overall thing kind of a vibe. Like it makes the whole thing feel like suspended in a way, because you never get that final mention of the one chord, which in this case you don't need at all, So I think that's super cool in regards to the harmony. Let's take a quick look at the melody. So in terms of the overall melody, it's not a super melodic shape overall, because it's very lyric focused and it's rhyme focused. There's and they kind of include the lyrics here in the description. Dollars, tower, dimes, crime, right? Do here is like there's 2 do's here. There's a do here again. And then let's see, ride and glide, roll and float. Shy and tight. Like those are very, very common types of rhymes. And so if you hear the melody here, here we go.
In a room full of dimes, you would be $100 if being fine was a crime. Girl, they lock your little fine ass up in the tower. The way you move like you do, ooh, it's like you do it for a living. Do a little spin, do it again.
Right. So when he says things like do a little spin or things like that, there's no specific note he's hitting on those notes. Even though most of the melody has certain pitches to them, it's very lyric focused, because the melody kind of never stays very, very super stepwise or anything. It kind of goes down in thirds, it goes down in fourths, up a fifth, up an octave, whatever. But there's a lot of lyrical focus on it, and it's really to get the message across. That's the most important part here. And then I just wrote here that the highest note in the verse and the pre-chorus is actually an A in Anderson Paak's range. And then Bruno actually hits a C just before hitting the chorus. So
Look like you're playing for the win, oh baby. I'm trying to roll. I'm trying to
now they're singing together. Notice it's a little fatter there.
I'm trying to float. I'm trying to glide. No, don't be shy. Just take my hand.
Now this is a little more lyrical.
Don't take skates.
So that right there, that high C is what Bruno Mars sings there. But notice the pre-chorus is already a lot more melodic compared to the verse.
I'm trying to float. I'm trying to glide. No, don't be shy. Just take my hand and hold.
So you notice da 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 da. Right, that melody is more stepwise. It kind of goes by steps more. So it feels a little bit calmer there, whereas in the verses it's a lot more lyric focused, and so the melody can jump around a little bit more. And then the chorus especially, it's quite segmented. Little break, main melody, break, skate to me baby, break. Right? So you notice the chorus has basically 4 exclamations, and then in the middle you kind of get these responses in the vocal stacks. So there's a lot of this call and response action that gives the listener room to kind of group these melodic motifs and doesn't overwhelm the listener with too much melodic information. So again, this just proves that you don't need the most smooth melody, or you don't need the most continuous melody in order to make a song catchy. All you need is basically the arrangement and the segmentation of a melody to kind of give the listener room to breathe and understand how the melody is kind of grouped in certain places. So if we listen to this one more time. Vocal response. I mean, that really is the hook. Skate to me, baby. Right? So once you get that hook, that's the thing that's going to kind of stick in your mind when you listen to this on repeat. And there's really nothing, there's no superfluous information to kind of distract you from that main hook. Skate to me, baby, skate to me, baby. He kind of differs there. He kind of goes down once and goes up once. But generally, you get the idea that the entire chorus is kind of focused on that one lyrical line.
I wanna get to know
Bruno's turn to sing his melody. So in his verse, now we start to get a little more rhythmic variety as well, in terms of the rhythmic pattern in his melody. So I just wrote here he has a triplet at 124. Right here. So that's a triplet, right? So it's not just always like eighth notes or quarter notes. There's always some extra information in there for sure, right? And then 128. So that totally switches it up now. Now we're not hearing eighth notes anymore or sixteenths. Now we have quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And this really works because the groove is counterbalancing it with all these syncopated rhythms, and with the drums and the rhythmic guitar and all that cool stuff. And then at 134, now we have 16th notes. So right here. So 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, right? So within this one like verse, you get so many rhythmic variances in that one melody. And that just proves that it's so lyric heavy or lyric focused. And so you can really shape the melodic rhythm to fit those lyrics. Okay. Which I think is really cool. I mean, this song to me tells me, or like this melody tells me that the concept and the lyrics were probably written out first before the melody was totally fleshed out, you know, because the melody again has so many different rhythmic elements to it. So, and then I just say he ad-libs in the final chorus. Notice the notes are a little different here. Skate to me, baby. So now he goes da 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 instead of da 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 da. So it changes that up a little bit too. And that's just like Bruno taking his liberty, doing whatever he wants with the melody because he's a natural performer. And this is one of those, one of those songs that's not completely cookie cutter, like in the box. Like you can take those risks and go past just the regular melodic shape and, do whatever you want. So that really, really works. All right, let's move on to the instrumentation. So overall, these are the kind of the instruments that I picked up at least. And one of the beautiful things in a lot of Bruno Mars songs and Anderson .Paak songs is that you don't have unnecessary information. So all of these instruments in this song contribute to the overall arrangement in some way. There's nothing in there just for the sake of being there, is what I'm trying to say. So if we just have a listen to this, and we look at the players, right? So Anderson is playing his drum kit. Bruno has the congas. This guy over here has the tambourine. You've got a bass guitar here, and you've got a rhythmic electric guitar as well. So that's already like 5 of the instruments out of the 7 here. And then you've got the strings in the background. Now notice here, there's no strings. So that means the only high information we're actually getting is maybe like the snaps, the tambourine for the non-tonal information, and then you also have the rhythmic guitar, the electric guitar fills in the empty spaces with the rhythmic playing. If you listen there on the right, right? So you hear the electric guitar kind of just coming in there to fill those empty holes, and there's no strings. The strings actually play a pretty heavy part in this song, especially in the pre-chorus and the chorus. Right? Da, da, da. That's all the disco type of strings. And that is only present in the pre-chorus and the chorus, which I think is super cool. And then I just said the drum pattern is more involved in the choruses. But I said the string is removed in the verses, which gives a lot more space for the vocals, and then it comes in the pre-chorus. Notice the strings are very sustained here, giving room for the vocals to do their work, Now you get a little more active strings here. The rhythmic groove is very consistent. And then you also get the vocal stacks kind of coming in ad-lib on the sides, to fill in the empty spaces as well. So every element is serving some deliberate purpose. So the drums and congas provide the fundamental rhythm. The snaps and tambourine are usually on the 2 and 4 on the weaker beats. Then you have the strings filling at the top end, while the bass guitar, which is like the fundamental bass notes, and the synth, there's a little synth that's there as well, which handles the low end. And then again, you have the electric guitar there as well. And then finally, let's talk about the mixing. So what kind of makes this overall song feel the way it does? Why does it feel so vintage and vibey? Well, first of all, it does come down to the harmony. Like, you could do as much processing as you want, but it's never really going to sound like it's from a certain area or time period if you don't have the fundamental musical language to help that, right? To provide that foundation. So again, we talked about the seventh chords. That's a very soul, funky, type of vibe that you get with this type of music. But aside from that, talking about the mix itself, it's balanced perfectly. So mixing is all about making sure the elements fit together in a very cohesive and beautiful way, making sure nothing is poking out and distracting the listener, too loud, too soft, or too harsh or whatever. But everything is balanced really, really well. So you hear the vocals sitting right in the center without being overpowered by any of the instruments, right? And there's obviously some compression going on, being that this is more of a pop-centered hit. But so as a result, everything feels very balanced across the board, while there is some quieter dynamics that are kind of helped by the strings and the swells. Sometimes the strings start a little softer, they swell in, and you can hear those, very, very balanced, of course. Then the vintage vibe, the thing that makes it not sound completely polished and gives it a bit of that grit and dirt, is kind of coming from that tape emulation or running through tape machines while recording, and some saturation can give it that kind of analog touch, which is really nice. So it's a bit of that static feel. Some people call it dirty, but it provides that kind of feel and vibe to it, which is cool. There's also some vocal harmonies, which are panned left and right for extra width in the stereo spectrum, stereo field, and the electric guitar you'll notice is being panned hard right, making room for the vocals, brass, and strings, and percussion, which are all up the center, very important. And then, of course, there are some reverb and delays applied for the spacious feel, mainly for the vocals here. So if I just play the very end, you'll notice it.
Oh yeah, I wanna get to know ya.
Right, that no, yeah, right? So that's called a delay right there. But overall here, let me just play a little bit, and then you'll kind of notice how these different instruments are placed and balanced together. Yeah, you know what I just noticed actually? If you listen to the verses, the only mid-range instrument here is literally just Anderson's voice. There's no other super mid-rangey instrument in this section of the song. The only high element is, of course, the tambourine, the snaps, but you also have the electric rhythmic guitar, and in the bottom you have the bass guitar. So there's really three core instruments happening here, tonal instruments. You have Anderson in the middle, you have the high rhythmic guitar at the top, and then you have the low bass, so filling out the entire spectrum. Have a listen.
If being fine was a crime, girl, they lock your little fine ass up in the tower. The way you move like you do.
Right? So that just proves how simple an arrangement needs to be in order for it to feel like a full production and a full, mix. So arrangement really is key. Like, you could have the best mixing engineers, you could have the best tools at your disposal, but if you don't really understand how to arrange your instruments so that they serve the lead instrument, in this case, the vocal, then it's going to be more of a mess, and it's going to make the mixing a lot more difficult. So the thing you want to make sure you do when you are actually producing a song, first of all, you want to nail down your fundamental musical information. Make sure the harmonies and the melodies are laid out and you know exactly what you want the song to be saying and doing, right? Lyrics, melody, and harmony, right? Then start to think about the instrumentation. So how do I want to approach the instruments to get the vibe and the message I'm going for? So in this case, they were relatively simple. They probably thought, okay, what do I need to get the rhythmic information? Drum kit, snaps, tambourine, congas, whatever. It gives it that, kind of Latin feel as well. Then in terms of the bottom end, you can have the bass guitar, maybe a synth at the bottom, right? And then at the very top, you have some rhythmic electric guitar and you have some strings as well. So very, very simple, right? You have a couple instruments for each of those functions, and that's it. And then after you get the arrangement sorted out, then you start to look at the mixing and the production. So how do I want to pan the instruments so that the most important elements are up the center and are featured prominently? So in this case, the vocals, very important. The drums and the percussion, you want to make sure those are kind of in the middle as well. Then the bass as well. Then the other things like, you know, strings, you can kind of decide on that. You can have it left or right. In this case, they kind of put it out the middle. I'm sure they expanded it with stereo plugins or whatever. And then they kind of put the electric guitar on the right, which is really cool. And then the snaps and tambourine are both up the center as well. So lots to think about, you know, when it goes into producing a song from start to finish. But it just proves that, you know, when everything comes together in a very cohesive way, you get a result that that creates a timeless sound. And they did a wonderful job here, and it definitely makes me anticipate the rest of the album. And I can't wait to hear the rest. I'm very, very excited because I haven't heard this type of music in a long, long time. I probably haven't looked hard enough, but this is a very, very wonderful start. So I'm definitely excited to hear the rest. So thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you are interested in kind of producing pop music, but kind of with an orchestral twist, like in this case, you know, we had some strings, but for my personal music, I love to, you know, write kind of pop style music and Disney music with orchestral elements and all that. I want to give you my guide called 3 Steps or 3 Components to an Orchestral Pop Song. And it basically takes you through 3 really important elements that I personally think about when it comes to introducing orchestral stuff into a pop arrangement. And there's not a lot of material talking about this. So I wanted to get this into your hands absolutely free as a gift for watching this video. Thank you so much again for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.